What's going on, guys? I'm Bill Rom from Superior Athletics. This is Mike Bouranis, aka Stoke Brogy, aka French Fry Mouth. Hamburger. I apologize. This is the first episode of Superior Strength Coach, and we're going to do a little back and forth, just talking about topics and giving you opinions on some common questions. The number one thing that we wanted to talk about first is something that Mike has had a stick up his ass for the last couple days about, and that's sleep. Mike, what is your thoughts on sleep?
I should have got more last night.
Should have got more. We're thinking about this because I slept for 4.5 hours. He slept for about 4.5 hours, and we're retards, and it's going to fuck us up all day.
I think most people, and I made a post on Facebook about this last night, and I got some good reactions. A lot of people agreed with me where most people need more sleep, and we're so shitty to our bodies about it, and we're lacking it every day, and there's this like mindset in America that one, if you sleep past like 6, you're a lazy piece of shit, which I think is ridiculous. And then 2, if you take naps during the day, you're also a lazy piece of shit, and it's like we're just doing our bodies such a huge disservice, and we need to, and I'm included in this, plan better for our sleep and just take advantage of those little 20-minute, 30-minute pockets of time we have and just nap just to get our bodies back. And you would probably know more about the science behind it, like what's actually going on in the body. I just know that when I sleep more, I PR more, I lift heavier, and I just feel better overall.
I mean, I know for me, I oftentimes equate the amount of hours I work with like how much I got done. But usually it's when I sleep the least that I get the least done. I'm just awake for the most amount of time.
Yeah.
And it's because I'll get into this kind of cognitive overload where my brain's just not firing at the level I want it to fire at. And I can't think, and I kind of idle in place and doing the same thing over and over again. It's like, damn, like, why am I like that? It's like, oh, well, you've only slept 6 hours, 4 nights in a row, and you haven't napped and you haven't done anything, and all that stuff will impact you. Yesterday, coming into yesterday, I slept great. Like, I probably got about 8.5 hours of sleep, and yesterday, my first session, I left my house to go coach my first session at 6:30, and I was here coaching until 7:30, so it was a 13-hour day, and you know my day yesterday was pretty just packed with me just doing stuff back to back to back to back. And I got home and I told Melissa, and I was like, I could keep going, right? Like, I feel great today. My nutrition has been better lately. My water intake, I drank about 1.5 gallons yesterday, and my sleep was on point. And I think all of those things have such a huge benefit, even just for me, and I fail to follow through myself. And the same thing, we're all human, right? We're not perfect. But I think that it's having a better understanding of the sleep. We talk about doing diaphragmatic breathing and PRI concepts. For people who don't know PRI is Postural Restoration Institute. Breathing is a big fundamental component of what they do. For us, we talk about how it helps shift from sympathetic to parasympathetic. Sympathetic being like high threshold, I'm really like, fight or flight, like everything's shitty and I'm ready to fight it, versus parasympathetic, which is rest digest. I think by not sleeping, we upregulate to sympathetic in order to handle more stuff because our body gets to a higher stress level. Sleep allows us to spend more time in a supposed parasympathetic state, and if we allow ourselves to get 8 hours of sleep, we're allowing kind of a cleansing in a rest digest state, and that gets us back to be able to handle the stressors of everyday life. And I think that we all have too much stress living in America. What was your idea that you wanted to do? Remember the conversation we had? Where do you want to go for like a month?
Oh, Buddhist monastery and just chill for like a full month. And Billy knows that you've taught me just like walk into the office, see me just meditate for like 10 minutes. Just try to find those little bits of just getting back into, like you said, parasympathetic. And like just imagining doing a full month of that would be so sick. And like just resetting myself and coming back and just being that much more mellow, and all the filters that we have day to day are just thrown down, and then you see things in a clear light. Even from let's get at like the whole spiritual idea of it, but like you're saying, you're just so much more like cognitive aware. Like everything is just like you're just normally during the day we're so stressed and we have that sensory overload that we can't handle it, and we ignore so much, whether it's hearing, just like listening to things, seeing things, whatever. And just getting back to that state and just being able to like sit back for a second and look at everything from a different light, I think would be so sick.
I know Harold Gibbons from Mark Fisher Fitness. Anybody who doesn't know Harold yet, who watches this, Facebook friend request him. He'll accept it. Great dude. Does a lot of the programming at Mark Fisher Fitness, which is one of the top gyms in the country in terms of revenue and culture and what they put together. When we went to their movement motivation lab, Harold at one point in time worked here, and I'm very good friends with him. And I went in the back to see him, and he was sitting on a staircase going through a meditation. And for him, that stress of, hey, I'm about to speak, I'm going to do all this, I helped set up this whole entire lab, there's 100 and something people here, there's so much feedback that goes in, that meditation or napping or anything where we can kind of take away some sensory stuff and kind of be more internalized for a little bit, I think can help block out some of the bullshit. And it's something that I think our athletes, clients, ourselves, we all tend to over or underestimate its importance. Definitely something I think that might be like a September goal for us.
Yeah.
More sleep, more meditation, and more sensory deprivation in some capacity.
I think a lot of people too get kind of weirded out at first, and I know I was, with the whole like, there's so much spiritual bullshit surrounding meditation. In my opinion, I don't buy into like realigning your chakras or whatever the fuck people say. But I think a lot of people get kind of freaked out by that at first, and one of the things we need to do is introduce meditation into a way that people find it in their daily life. So like I know, like just going to the grocery store by myself and just like buying food, like I just get in this like, because you're doing this like small activity where you need the focus of like you're looking where it is, you gotta know what you're looking for, remembering everything on the list, and you kind of just like sit back for a second. And sometimes, and I don't know if anybody else gets this, and like maybe you guys get it from somewhere else, but I know when I go grocery shopping, I get into this meditation. Even our athletes, when they come in, I'm like, yo, you look like shit today, your movement's off, you're not exploding, there's no power involved, like you're obviously beat to shit, your central nervous system is done right now, go on the bike for 20 minutes, right? And even just sitting on the bike, sometimes you see them, they just pop in their music, what's in front of them is just a wall, and they start going, and that's like some form of meditation for some people. My buddy Anthony, so the New Leaf Meditation Project, if you guys don't know, check it out. His goal is, he was a super stressed out dude, and he started meditating and found the love for it, and his goal is just help out 1 million people meditate for free. He's also a skydiver, jumps out of hot air balloons, off buildings, whatever, and just skydives. And he's like, it's some of the most meditative times I've ever had. It's literally falling through the fucking sky at, I don't know, 100 miles per hour, like before you open a parachute, and that's just so gnarly to me. But just finding these little bits of not having to sit down and like listen to some like fucking Buddhist music or whatever, but like just going through your daily life and finding those small bits where you kind of like find yourself in a meditative state, and just one, being aware of what they are, and then doing them, I think, more over time can even just get you back into that parasympathetic shift. And I think this will overall have a huge benefit on how much more efficient you are during the day.
And I think you hear like the moment of Zen or peace of mind and things like that. And when you hear that, you think kind of like religious or spiritual or things like that. And I agree. I think that there has to be a shift. Just like anything else, when you steal great ideas from other areas, and you want to take out the parts that are useful for you, I think that the spiritualism, if you want to get into that, go ahead. But don't discount the benefits that you can get, even if you're not there. For us, like, you're right, like, when we've had a few people come in, they come in a crappy mood, and they feel like shit, and then we put them on the bike, and we just talk to them, and then we kind of let them get into a zone, and then they leave, and they're smiling, and they're laughing, and it's like, yo, like, we fed your body what it wanted. It needed you to do something active, but it needed more so to get back to balance. And think that sleep is the first weapon of getting your life back in track. Vacations are great, but vacations where you go away and you're doing shit the entire time
Partying
is not a vacation. That's you creating an experience, but sometimes we need some of that de-stress, and I think that's more.
I love when people go away and they're like, oh, I'm going on vacation, I can't wait. But like, you're literally going to like what could have been any bar on Long Island anyway with the same shitty people you probably thought you'd be seeing, and you just all go to Mexico. It's like, did you really do anything or experience anything different or feed your body any different stimulus, or did you just do the same shit you do every Saturday and Sunday or Friday and Saturday, and you just did it over there and spent more money to do it?
That's 100%. That's one of the frustrating things that like I've had with vacations. I went away with a group of friends a while back, and we all stayed in the house for my friend's wedding. And I would go to sleep, and I just naturally wake up, so I didn't have an alarm clock. But like when I realized I didn't have any place to go, my sleep was deeper, right? So I found myself just waking up early in the morning. And I'd wake up, I'd get dressed, I'd start reading a book. And I'd go upstairs and sit on our communal couch, and we had a 3-story house in the Outer Banks. And I'm reading a book, and they'd be like, why are you so weird? Why are you reading and doing all this? And I'm like, I trained 70 hours when I was back home. And I don't have time to read and kind of chill and kind of slow my life down. Like this vacation for me is about, I have a beautiful house. I can sit on the outside. It's the fall. It's like 70 degrees out and breezy, so it's cool, and I can wear a hoodie and just read a book and chill out.
Yeah.
And I got so much out of it, and I came back so excited for fucking life. But like, I've gone to other vacations recently where I'm up at 6:30 in the morning because I'm going to a golfing outing, and I'm golfing, and then I'm drinking, and from there I'm driving over here, and then I'm going here, and I'm going here, and like I have fun, and I'll never forget the experiences. But I come back more tired and more set back than when I left, and I need a vacation from my vacation.
Yeah.
And I think like that's another thing of chasing after fun constantly. And I think that if we spent more time replenishing ourselves in terms of how we felt every day, we wouldn't need the vacations the way that we desire them. I also think that we'd have more life fun all the time.
Yeah.
Like for me, when I'm well rested and I'm well everything, and my brain's in the right spot, like everything I do is more fun. Like last night, I could have stayed here till 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah,
and
you're just in a better mood. You're not stressed out.
Right. And when that happens, like life is the shit. And that doesn't sound like, from our perspective, like we coach high performance and we coach people who are looking to be badass. You know, Michelle comes in this morning, she's trying to be badass. Like, she might be a mom, but she wants to be a badass. You know, my client Donna, who's about to walk in the door, she wants to be a badass.
Yeah.
And like, she's like, all right, you know, I've lost 30 pounds, but like, I also want to, you know, run a faster mile. I want to do other shit. But her life is better. She's found a way of kind of absorbing all that and doing the right thing. And sleep is a huge benefit for her. Donna doesn't sleep. And the other day she came in, she's like, I slept 5 hours straight. She's like, that's the first time in probably 10
that was good.
in probably 10 years.
Oh, shit.
For her, that's great, right? And that's rough. To me, I'd be like, oh. But when she first came in, she was sleeping 3 hours a night. That was all her straight sleep was. And then it was in and out of sleep, and her mood's better, her weight loss is going faster, her mobility's better. She's sleeping.
Yeah.
And then her heart's in a better place, everything's in a better place, everything feels better.
That's something I want to touch on. We were talking about before. When we get people to hop on the bike. So I had a client come in the other day, and he's just been having a real straight string of just shitty nights of sleep. And we start talking about it, and so ended up putting him on the bike, right? And like, so going to just doing like light aerobic capacity work, right? What does that do for our heart that in turn affects our sleep and just overall, like, why anybody from powerlifters who don't care about cardio or anything, or, you know, like an athlete or a mom, why everybody should be doing that and how it's going to benefit them?
So back in probably like the late 90s, the early 2000s, anybody who was doing anything in regards to conditioning was doing it for what was the best way to lose fat the fastest. And when you solely focus on the fact that I want to lose fat as quickly as I possibly can, Slow and steady is not going to burn calories, fat, and get you in shape as
like high intensity interval training.
As quickly as some hit stuff, or we're going after these crazy intervals, and people are like, I'm doing Tabata arm curls. Like, no, that's not a real thing. Like, beyond that, like, so what happened is a guy, Joel Jamieson, came out with a book that was Ultimate Conditioning for MMA fighters, and in it he started to talk about the actual science and application of conditioning for fighters, but conditioning for everybody. Mike Boyle probably was the first person that I heard talk about it, and it was on Strength Coach, where he's like, Joel did himself a disservice by calling it
MMA.
For MMA. He's like, if you had just called it Ultimate Conditioning, like, it's one of the best books on how to condition yourself and your athletes that's been written. And Joel's become the guy to go to if you want to be a conditioning specialist. And one of the things he talked about is road work and like the low, slow, steady stuff that everyone used to do was gone. And whether you sprint, whether you're pushing a prowler, whether you're doing anything at high effort, your aerobic system is involved. I can do low-level aerobic work and not have other energy systems truly kick all the way on. Right? So I'm not getting into like a creatine phosphate, and I'm not getting into anaerobic work by doing a really slow jog. But if I'm doing a sprint, or I'm doing a 1 minute sprint on a bike, or I'm doing a 4 minute sprint, my aerobic system is always on, right? So that means that if my aerobic function, if it's not functioning properly because it hasn't been trained, and all we do is the high effort stuff, again, we're feeding our body more sympathetic stuff, right? The high effort things are going to get us more fight or flight. So we're always sympathetic, which we know drains our energy and can make us less efficient in general, right? Which, if we're always in that sympathetic state, we're probably going to have a higher heart rate because we can't come down.
Yeah.
So training our base aerobic function allows us to recover faster from our work. And if we can recover, we can train again. If we can train again, we can train more often. If we can train more often, we get better results.
And base aerobic work meaning like light bike, 20 minutes, heart rate at like 120?
I utilize 20 minutes to 30 minutes on the bike for most of our athletes because of the style in which we even do our training. If most of the people are doing alternating sets and they're going at a relatively good pace and they just did a speed class, by the time they get done with an hour and 15 minutes of the activity that they've done, they get on the bike, their heart rate's probably been in an elevated zone for a little while. So I'm just trying to latch on to that a little bit longer and extend them out. The 120 to 140, that depends more on each person's individual. If they're a younger athlete, I'll usually say closer to 140. If they're a really, really deconditioned athlete, I'll say 120 to 130, just because I want them to just go really easy and allow their heart to just kind of find a pace. But the other thing is when we talk about cardiac output and stroke volume, we're actually trying to work on eccentric strength of the heart and build up the heart's, the left ventricle's ability to expand, contract, and get more blood per pump. If we get more blood per pump, we're going to get more of the oxygen through our system, we're going to get more nutrients going through us, and that's going to lower our resting heart rate. If we lower your resting heart rate day to day, that also shifts us back to parasympathetic quicker, which gives us recovery, everything else. So the reason why we put athletes and we put people on the bike and we'll do stuff like that with them is we're still feeding physical activity. Physical activity is good for us every day in some capacity, so it's an easy way for us to do it without adding like shock volume to the system. It's simple, right? For us, just get on the bike and we're in a very small space confining somebody but getting a lot of things out. And doing 3 to 4 low-level aerobic sessions a week that aren't crazy taxing, it won't take away muscle. It's not going to take power and performance away from you. It's not going to develop slow twitch muscles, which is everybody's concern. If you go out and you're running miles and miles and miles and miles and miles, and you're doing 20 miles a week and you're a sprint athlete, yeah, then maybe. But if we're going for a bike ride, or we're going for a hard walk, or we're getting on a bike and we're just doing some stuff and we're keeping our heart rate low, we're not going to get the deconditioning of power and speed that everybody worries about. And instead, we're going to feed the body some low-end stuff that it's been missing. Powerlifters are all up here. Like, every guy that we've had come in here wants like up here.
Yep. Between what? Just the intensity?
The intensity is up here, right? My weights are up here. My volume is up here. My everything is up here. So every fucking thing you do is up here. Like, you're wiping out the value of everything down here, and I think that you do yourself a disservice long term by everything being high level. And you see guys who start getting stressed, and I'm not going to say guys' names. I'm not going to say guys' names, but do we have people here who get overly emotional because possibly their training is breaking them down in some way?
They're just sitting in sympathetic, again, sympathetic just being that high, high tone we call it.
And they go home and they want to cry.
Yeah.
And if you're a grown-ass dude, you want to cry, there's some hormonal shit that's going on, and there's some volume shit, and there's probably some sleep shit that's wrong, and there's probably some aerobic function that's wrong. And if you're not taking those things into account and you're feeling those things, because I know people who are watching this, you're out there, if you feel like you're having a tough time controlling emotions, something's out of whack with your training. And you might be strong as fuck, but there is something unbalanced that we got to balance out at least a little bit for long-term development.
Would try and put you into parasympathetic?
It probably does. That's why you feel so good.
Yeah, but why is that bad then, right? So that's
so it's not the fact that crying in itself can
crying is just a reaction to being
right. So again,
I love it when you cry.
Hey, listen, let's be real. You know, if you cry like real hard, you want to sleep like a champion.
Yeah,
like you shift so parasympathetic that it's like wild, right? Like I probably haven't had a real solid good cry in a long time. Yeah. Maybe that'd be good for me.
Yeah.
I think that what we're talking about is instead of needing to get to, I've pushed so far to this breaking point that I need to come all the way to the other side of the spectrum and break this way.
Yeah.
Can we just get to a point, pull ourselves back by meditation, right? Proper hydration, proper sleep, right? Checking all these things that like we take for granted that we think like, I'm doing okay. Maybe you're not. Maybe something's fucked up. You know?
Yeah.
If you come in and your RPE feels heavy all the time, we know that that's a response that, hey, our nervous system might be a little overshot right now. Now, if we're overreaching and we're doing certain things, that's a positive thing. We know what we're doing. We're hoping to bounce back. But if you're in a phase where it's not, and we've had guys come in and like, I don't know why this is so messed up. And you can see how much the stress is. We probably got to de-stress you in some capacity.
I mean, even look at Matt. Matt gets overly...
I'm
Matt Cronin, for those of you who don't know, right? So
he's dropping names right now.
I'm gonna drop some facts too. World record, squat, yada yada yada. Overall beefcake, right? He comes in and he's stressed out a lot, and it's like, what do we start doing with him or showing him? And like PRI, just have him sit on the wall and do the breathing, and he's been fucking
feels
does
better
it in the beginning, and I think the beginning of every session. He might be doing the end of every session, and it just brings him back into a shift a little parasympathetic, and he's been fucking absolutely crushing it. His bench has been up.
His bench. So again, think of a small thing that we added to a guy who's already good at training, right? Did he need better technique? No, that wasn't the fix. Did we need to change his periodization scheme? No, not necessarily. Was it entirely nutrition? No. Breathing. Allowing him to have a almost meditative function where he meditates and does his breathing for 5 minutes before and after he does training. His bench shot through the roof. He hits an all-time PR and kills it speed-wise. It's like, that felt so light.
Yeah.
Then he goes in and squats 510 pounds or something like that for 3 reps at 180, 185 pounds. Kills that like monster in the game. And he's been breathing better, which is shifting him to his recovery. So again, if you train and you can't recover from it, it doesn't fucking matter how great your program was. If it overtaxed your ability to recover, you're never going to hit that peak that you tried to build because we're never going to fully come back from it. That's where, one, we get to overtraining, and you guys can say that overtraining might not be real. It might be real. When we're talking about guys who are truly dedicated, like a guy like Matt could overtrain himself.
Yeah.
Matt has a complete ability to overtrain himself because that fucking kid will, if you told him tomorrow that he could add 50 pounds to his total in 6 weeks, by just death punching himself in the face.
Yeah.
He would do it with both hands. Like, he's all about it. That's a guy who he has to take a bigger onus on his recovery. And I know that we've had the conversation of elite athlete versus non-elite elite athlete, and how powerlifting hasn't really gotten any super elites in terms of base athletic ability yet.
Yeah.
But Matt is competing on a world level in his sport for his age bracket, and at that point, I think that every little thing can matter. And I think that you have to take that into perspective, especially if you're looking at high performance. And it's funny to think that sleep and breathing is high performance, but when done properly and done with a purpose and done with a reason, I think it can be.
Absolutely.
That was some dope shit. We're going to end on that. We're not going to ask about anything else because I think we freestyled that like champions. Watch the next episode. We have no idea when it'll come out, but it's going to be dope as fuck. Superior Strength Coach coming at you. See you later.